Hi there, it's that time of year again. Time for me to do my annual Wrestlemania blog. Now, looking back at last year's Wrestlemania blog, it clocked in at a little over 16 minutes. I'm going to try to be more concise this year. Now, again, before anybody flips out, yes, I know, wrestling's fake, I get that. But you're also talking to somebody who absolutely loves movies. I know there's no such thing as C-3PO. I know there's no Michael Corleone. I know that the characters portrayed in my favorite movie, Heat, Al Pacino and Robert De Niro acted so wonderfully in are just characters. I get it, but I still enjoy it. I love it. But then again, I have no shame in telling you that I like wrestling. I have no shame in telling you that I watch Young and the Restless. So again, one's a soap opera, one's like a soap opera for men. But I still tip my hat off to the WWE. What a fantastic organization. I'm not even talking about the product that they put on television shows pretty much it seems daily, but in terms of the stuff that they do for the community. Whether it being getting people to register to vote, whether it be their literacy programs, or whether it be their anti-bullying, or their fantastic work that they do with the Make-A-Wish Foundation. WWE is a fantastic organization, and I think they do some wonderful things. Now here's the thing. You know how sometimes you can have friends or family and you love them, but sometimes you don't always like them? So for example, you might love your husband or your wife or your brother or your girlfriend or whoever, but sometimes they do stuff to annoy you and you don't really like them. That's kind of how I felt about the WWE over the last few months. Now let me again preface this by saying the stuff that they do out of the ring, fantastic. I love them to death for the things that they do, and I think they're awesome. You know, it's very easy to just sit back and say, oh, wrestling, fake, blah, whatever. No. Get that mentality out of your head. They do a lot of wonderful things for the communities that they support. However, my whole love them but don't really like them has to do more so with the product on screen. Over the past year, I personally have felt that the product's gone down a little bit. Things such as seeing the show go, the Monday Night Raw show going from 2 hours to 3 hours, which I thought was great for them, but I feel that half of that show is basically, this is what happened earlier, this is what you missed. So basically for those people who are tuning in at the 11th hour, they get a good recap, but for those of us who have been watching the show from the beginning of the hour, we just have to basically watch the same things, it seems, over and over and over again. That's more of a production issue, not enough reason for me to not like them. But I think even in terms of the character development and watching the show on television, it seemed to me that for the longest time, the show always seemed to turn to a 3-on-1 or a 4-on-1. Now some people might say, isn't that what wrestling is usually like? No, it's not. I think the biggest telltale sign of the fact that the product is going down is when I think about my uncle. My great uncle has been watching wrestling for years. And there would be times when you put on just even a theme song and he'd be running to the TV to check it out. A few months ago I asked him if he wanted to come over and see the Royal Rumble and he was like, no, not really interested, but I'll see you for Wrestlemania. So, with that in mind, I'm doing my Wrestlemania blog because it's an annual tradition, but with the hopes that over the next year, and if I end up watching Wrestlemania next year, that the WWE can improve upon its product. Probably the greatest frustration that I have with the company right now deals with the WWE Network. The WWE Network is a fantastic, innovative idea. Well, maybe not so innovative because the UFC's done it as well, but exciting in the sense that what the WWE has done is they've taken their huge, vast vault library of programming and of archives and of pay-per-view, and they've put it on a video on-demand service that that subscribers can get through a multitude of devices like iPhones and iPads, but also from their computers. It's a little frustrating though because they didn't release it in Canada. They didn't release it in other countries as well, but I'm Canadian, so I'll talk about the Canadian aspect. It's frustrating because at least 4 nights a week, dare I say 5, WWE programming is on a Canadian network. It seems a little silly that I'm constantly hearing them talk about a product that Canadians can't get. Now, granted, I understand I could change my VPN servers and access it that way, but I don't really think I should have to. Several months before the WWE Network came out, the UFC came out with something called Fight Pass, where you could again access their entire library. they made this available globally. Perhaps if the WWE had done something like that for Canadian fans and other international fans, I would have thought to myself, well, that's a step in the right direction. But again, to me this has been a bit of an off year for the WWE. Now that I've got that off my chest, let's talk about WrestleMania. This year's WrestleMania will be the 30th. It seems crazy when you think that it's been 30 years, it's been going 30 years strong. Now, again, a lot of people might easily discount wrestling and say, oh, it's fake and it's silliness, but it's gotten to the point where cities actually bid on WrestleMania, the same way that cities bid on the Olympics. Why? Because it brings millions of dollars of revenue to those cities. Now, the big main event is going to be a triple threat match with Batista and Randy Orton, and the third opponent to be determined. It'll be determined by a match that will consist of Triple H, also the COO of the company, against Daniel Bryan. The winner of that match will get the opportunity to go into that triple threat match for the title. Now, my prediction, I'm predicting that Daniel Bryan will beat Triple H, and then I'm also predicting that he will go on and he will win the championship match with interference and assistance from, wait for it, CM Punk. Yes, I'm predicting that CM Punk is going to make his return at this year's WrestleMania. Now, the reason that I'm predicting Daniel Bryan to win, I don't really think it's a huge prediction because he seems to be the most popular superstar in wrestling right now, is that in the history of the 29 WrestleManias that have already passed, there have only been 2 WrestleManias where a quote-unquote bad guy has won the main event. WrestleMania 16, WrestleMania 17. I by no shape or form expect that to continue, or that to happen again, I should say, at this year's WrestleMania. As this is the biggest event in the company's history, I think what better way for the show to end than with the most popular person in the company right now hoisting the title belt. Of course, the other big match at WrestleMania is the undefeated streak of The Undertaker as he takes on Brock Lesnar. Now, this match was in the making years ago after Brock Lesnar lost a fight at UFC and he was heading back to the dressing room, and The Undertaker was at ringside, and he says to Brock Lesnar, "So you want us to do this?" Pretty much, The Undertaker was very influential in getting Brock Lesnar to come back to the WWE. And I'll be the first person to say, well, I don't necessarily find Brock Lesnar a very, very entertaining, character. I think his wrestling has been absolutely fantastic. I doubted him at first, but I'll give him full credit that his wrestling's been amazing. He sucks on the microphone, but he doesn't have to be good on the microphone. That's what Paul Heyman's there for, his manager. This is interesting to do this block because people who watch wrestling are looking at this right now and saying, yeah, I get it. And then people who don't watch wrestling are probably looking at it and saying, so what, no movie review? Anyways, if you have the opportunity to check out WrestleMania this Sunday on pay-per-view, I definitely recommend checking it out. It is by far the most entertaining event of the year. I look forward to it every year. It's a big thing in this household. The doorbell will be ringing like crazy as I'll be welcoming family and friends alike. And we will be glued in front of the TV watching every single hip toss, body slam, joke with bated breath, because this is something that happens once a year. It's like Christmas for it's basically like Christmas for wrestling fans. And it's also turned, like I said, it's also turned into like this huge global phenomenon. Well, I shouldn't say it's turned into, it's become this global phenomenon because it's been, again, 30 years, which is absolutely crazy. Think about it. A product that we know is pre-scripted, but nobody really cares because we enjoy it just the same. Do you watch wrestling? If you do, feel free to tell me what some of your favorite wrestlers or moments are. I'd love to hear. Maybe you heard me talk about Young and the Restless earlier. If you want to talk about that, you can send me a message about that too. So I'm clocking in under 10 minutes, which is a lot better than the 16 that I did last year, so progress. Maybe next year I'll get it down to 5. Hopefully the WWE will give me a lot less to vent about. But again, there's more that I like about the company that I don't like about the company, and I'm just hoping they'll smarten up and get WWE Network to Canadian fans sooner rather than later. As always, you can check me out on Twitter at CFL_fan, Facebook.com/WhittyWhittier, and at the website at WhittyWhittier.com. What you gonna do when Witty Whittier runs wild on you? Take care, and we'll talk to you soon.